In the shadow of the great pyramids, where the desert winds carry whispers of forgotten wisdom, the ancient god Anubis once walked among mortals, teaching them the sacred art of quantum thinking. His jackal eyes, piercing through the veils of reality, saw what others could not perceive: the invisible threads that weave intention into manifestation, energy into form. The seeker approached the temple at dawn, when the first rays of Ra kissed the golden capstone. Anubis stood at the threshold between worlds, his obsidian staff reflecting the morning light like captured starfire. The god's voice resonated through dimensions as he spoke of the first great truth, that consciousness itself is the architect of reality, and every thought carries within it the seed of creation. Mortal child. Anubis intoned his words, echoing through the chambers of eternity. You have come seeking the power to bend reality to your will. Yet you do not understand that reality has always been bending to you. Every breath you take, every heartbeat that drums within your chest, every flicker of awareness that dances behind your eyes. These are quantum events, collapsing infinite possibilities into singular moments of experience. The seeker trembled before the god's presence, feeling the weight of cosmic truth settling upon their shoulders like a mantle of stars. Anubis raised his staff, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with potential, as if the very fabric of existence was revealing its hidden patterns. Observe, the god commanded, and suddenly the temple walls became transparent, showing the seeker the intricate web of energy that connects all things. Golden threads pulsed with life force, weaving through space and time, connecting every atom to every star, every thought to every outcome. This is the quantum field, the primordial soup from which all realities are born. Your ancestors knew this truth, encoded it in their sacred texts, carved it into stone monuments that would outlast empires. The seeker watched in wonder as the threads responded to their very attention, brightening and shifting with each focused thought. Anubis nodded approvingly, his ancient eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The first principle of quantum thinking is this: attention is the currency of creation. Where you place your conscious awareness, there the quantum field responds. Your ancestors called this the power of the divine gaze, the ability to collapse infinite potential into manifest reality through the focused application of consciousness. As the god spoke, images began to form in the shimmering air around them. The seeker saw ancient Egyptian priests in their sacred chambers, their minds trained to laser-like precision, their intentions clear as crystal. They witnessed the construction of monuments that defied the understanding of later civilizations, built not through brute force alone, but through the harmonious alignment of human consciousness with cosmic principles. But attention without intention is like a river without banks. Anubis continued, his voice taking on the rhythm of ancient incantations. It flows everywhere and nowhere, creating chaos instead of order. The second principle teaches us that intention is the architect's blueprint, the divine plan that gives structure to the formless energy of creation. The god gestured, and the golden threads began to organize themselves into complex geometric patterns, sacred geometries that pulsed with mathematical perfection. The seeker recognized these forms from ancient texts, from the hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx, from the dreams that had called them to this sacred place. Your intention must be forged in the fires of absolute clarity. Anubis declared, his staff now glowing with an inner light that seemed to come from the heart of creation itself. It cannot be a mere wish, a fleeting desire born of ego and fear. True intention arises from the deepest chambers of your being, where your individual will aligns with the cosmic will, where your personal desires merge with the greater pattern of existence. The seeker felt something stirring within their chest, a warmth that spread through their entire being like liquid sunlight. They understood in that moment that they had been preparing for this teaching their entire life, through every joy and sorrow, every triumph and failure, every moment of doubt and certainty. The ancient texts speak of the Ka. Anubis continued, the vital essence that animates all living things. Modern seekers have forgotten that the Ka is not separate from what they now call quantum energy. They are one and the same. The life force that flows through your veins is the same force that spins electrons around atomic nuclei, that births stars in the cosmic void, that dreams entire universes into existence. As the god spoke these words, the seeker began to feel their own Ka, stirring, awakening from the slumber of ordinary consciousness. They could sense the energy moving through their body like rivers of light, connecting them to the vast network of cosmic intelligence that Anubis was revealing. To manipulate this energy, the god explained, you must first understand its nature. It is not separate from you. You are not manipulating something external. You are learning to consciously direct the very force that already animates your being. This is why the ancients spoke of becoming gods, not through arrogance or delusion, but through the recognition of their true nature as conscious expressions of the divine creative force. The temple around them began to pulse with rhythm, as if the very stones were breathing with cosmic life. The seeker realized that this was not metaphor. The boundary between consciousness and matter was dissolving before their eyes, revealing the underlying unity that mystics had spoken of for millennia. The third principle. Anubis intoned, his voice now seeming to come from everywhere at once, is alignment. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions must move in harmony, like the celestial bodies in their eternal dance. When there is discord between these aspects of your being, your quantum field becomes chaotic. Your manifestations become unpredictable. Your reality becomes a reflection of internal conflict rather than conscious creation. The god raised his staff high above his head, and suddenly the seeker could see their own energy field, a swirling aurora of colors and patterns that shifted with every thought and feeling. They watched in fascination as moments of doubt created dark tangles in the field, while moments of clarity caused it to shine with brilliant coherence. Observe how your internal state immediately affects the quantum field around you. Anubis noted his ancient wisdom penetrating every layer of the seeker's understanding. This is not theory or philosophy. This is the fundamental mechanics of reality itself. Your ancestors knew this truth so deeply that they built their entire civilization around it. Their temples were not just places of worship, but quantum laboratories where consciousness and matter danced together in perfect harmony. The seeker began to understand why they had been drawn to this place, to this moment, to this teaching. Every step of their journey had been preparing them to receive this knowledge, to become a conscious participant in the cosmic creative process, rather than a passive victim of circumstance. The fourth principle concerns the sacred marriage of masculine and feminine energies within your being. Anubis continued his form, now seeming to shift between dimensions, sometimes appearing as the familiar jackal-headed god, sometimes as pure geometric light, sometimes as the very space between thoughts. The masculine principle is focused intention, the arrow of consciousness aimed at a specific target. The feminine principle is receptive awareness, the fertile void that receives the seed of intention and nurtures it into manifestation. As the god spoke, the seeker felt these energies awakening within themselves, recognizing them not as external concepts, but as fundamental aspects of their own consciousness. They understood that true quantum thinking required the integration of these polarities, the sacred union that their ancestors had celebrated in countless myths and rituals. When these energies are in balance, Anubis explained, your quantum field becomes a perfect instrument of creation. Your intentions take root in the fertile soil of receptive awareness, growing into manifestations that serve not only your individual will, but the greater harmony of existence itself. The temple began to fade around them, or perhaps they were ascending to a higher level of perception where physical structures were no longer necessary. The seeker found themselves floating in a space of pure potential, surrounded by the infinite possibilities that exist before the moment of choice collapses them into specific realities. This is the quantum realm. Anubis revealed his presence, now felt rather than seen, his wisdom transmitted directly from consciousness to consciousness. This is where all possibilities exist simultaneously, where the future and past converge in an eternal now, where your thoughts and intentions have the power to reshape the very foundations of reality. The seeker felt themselves expanding their individual consciousness, merging with something vast and timeless. They understood that they were not losing themselves, but finding their true nature, not as separate beings struggling against an indifferent universe, but as conscious expressions of the cosmic intelligence that creates and sustains all things. In this realm beyond form, where consciousness dances with infinite possibility, Anubis began to reveal the deeper mysteries of quantum manifestation. The seeker, now existing as pure awareness, felt the god's teachings penetrating every layer of their being, like sacred oils seeping into ancient papyrus. Behold the fifth principle, Anubis whispered, his voice now the sound of cosmic wind through stellar corridors. The principle of vibrational resonance. Every thought, every emotion, every intention carries its own unique frequency signature. These frequencies ripple through the quantum field, like stones cast into still water, creating interference patterns that either amplify or cancel each other out. The seeker watched in awe as their own thoughts became visible as waves of light, each one pulsing with its own distinct rhythm and color. They observed how thoughts of fear created jagged, chaotic patterns that seemed to tear at the fabric of possibility, while thoughts of love generated smooth, harmonious waves that seemed to strengthen and beautify everything they touched. Your ancestors understood this principle intimately. Anubis continued his form, now appearing as a constellation of stars, arranged in the shape of the eternal jackal. They knew that the human voice, when properly trained and intentionally directed, could literally reshape matter at the quantum level. This is why their sacred chants were not mere superstition, but precise technologies for consciousness manipulation. The god demonstrated by speaking a single word in the ancient tongue, and the seeker watched as reality itself responded, the quantum field reorganizing itself into new patterns of possibility. The word seemed to contain within it the blueprint for an entire universe, every syllable a cosmic command that the fundamental forces of creation eagerly obeyed. The sixth principle teaches us about the sacred geometry of manifestation. Anubis revealed his stellar form, now projecting complex mathematical patterns into the space around them. Every successful manifestation follows precise geometric principles that were encoded into the very architecture of your temples and monuments. The pyramid, the golden ratio, the flower of life. These are not mere artistic expressions, but functional diagrams of how consciousness structures reality. The seeker found themselves surrounded by these sacred forms, each one pulsing with its own unique energy signature. They began to understand that these geometries were like tuning forks for consciousness, helping to align their mental and emotional energies with the fundamental harmonics of creation itself. When you align your intentions with these sacred patterns, Anubis explained, you are not forcing your will upon an unwilling universe. You are harmonizing your individual creative power with the cosmic creative intelligence that already seeks to express itself through you. This is the difference between magic and manipulation, between co-creation and coercion. The god gestured, and suddenly the seeker could see how every successful manifestation in their life had unconsciously followed these geometric principles. Every moment of synchronicity, every answered prayer, every unexpected opportunity had emerged from the intersection of their personal energy field with these cosmic patterns of possibility. The seventh principle concerns the sacred timing of manifestation. Anubis continued his voice, now synchronized with the rhythm of celestial bodies in their eternal dance. Your linear minds perceive time as a river flowing from past to future, but quantum consciousness operates in the eternal now, where all moments exist simultaneously. True manifestation occurs not when you force outcomes according to your limited timeline, but when you align with the cosmic rhythms that govern all natural cycles. The seeker began to perceive time differently, seeing it not as a constraint, but as a spiral of ever-expanding possibility. They understood that their impatience and urgency had often interfered with the natural unfolding of their intentions, like trying to force a flower to bloom before its season. Your ancestors tracked these cosmic rhythms with mathematical precision. Anubis revealed, showing the seeker visions of ancient astronomers in their sacred observatories, calculating the movements of planets and stars, with instruments that seemed to blend science and mysticism into a single art. They knew that certain intentions could only manifest during specific cosmic windows when the quantum field was most receptive to particular types of creative expression. The gods showed them how the phases of the moon, the positions of the planets, the cycles of the seasons, and even the rhythm of their own heartbeat all contributed to the cosmic symphony that determined the optimal timing for manifestation. The seeker realized that they had been trying to impose their will upon reality without considering whether reality was ready to receive their intentions. The eighth principle reveals the mystery of quantum entanglement in human consciousness. Anubis continued, his form now appearing as a web of interconnected light that seemed to extend infinitely in all directions. Every person you have ever encountered, every relationship you have formed, every moment of connection or conflict has created quantum entanglements that continue to influence your manifestation abilities across space and time. The seeker gasped as they perceived the vast network of energetic connections that linked them to every being they had ever known. They could see how unresolved conflicts created energetic blockages that interfered with their manifestation abilities, while relationships based on love and mutual support created amplification networks that magnified their creative power exponentially. This is why the ancient teachings emphasized forgiveness and compassion, not as moral obligations, but as practical technologies for quantum optimization, Anubis explained. When you clear these energetic entanglements through conscious healing and forgiveness, you free tremendous amounts of creative energy that had been locked in patterns of resistance and conflict. The god demonstrated by showing the seeker how to consciously work with these quantum entanglements, sending waves of healing energy along the connections that linked them to others. As they did so, they felt their own energy field becoming clearer and more powerful, as if removing static from a radio signal had suddenly allowed them to receive cosmic transmissions with perfect clarity. The ninth principle teaches us about the role of gratitude in quantum amplification. Anubis revealed, his voice now carrying the resonance of temple bells, echoing through eternity. Gratitude is not merely a pleasant emotion or social courtesy. It is a specific frequency that signals to the quantum field that you are ready to receive more of whatever you are appreciating. It is the cosmic yes that opens the floodgates of abundance. The seeker felt a wave of profound gratitude washing over them, not just for the teachings they were receiving, but for every experience that had brought them to this moment of understanding. As this gratitude filled their being, they watched their quantum field expand and brighten, becoming a beacon that seemed to attract positive possibilities from across the cosmos. Your ancestors knew that gratitude was the key that unlocked the treasure houses of the gods. Anubis continued, showing the seeker visions of ancient ceremonies where entire communities would gather to express collective gratitude for the blessings they had received. They understood that gratitude creates a feedback loop with the creative intelligence of the universe, the more genuinely grateful you become, the more reasons the universe provides for gratitude. The god revealed how this principle operated at the quantum level, showing how the frequency of gratitude actually restructured the probability matrices that determined future outcomes. The seeker saw how their past experiences of lack and limitation had been perpetuated by focusing on what was missing rather than appreciating what was present. The 10th principle unveils the secret of quantum coherence in human consciousness. Anubis announced his form, now appearing as a perfect crystal that seemed to contain entire galaxies within its faceted structure. Coherence occurs when all aspects of your being, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions, vibrate in perfect harmony like a laser beam, focused to a single point of infinite intensity. The seeker experienced this state of coherence as Anubis guided them into perfect alignment. Every cell in their body seemed to sing the same note. Every thought pointed in the same direction. Every emotion supported the same intention. In this state, they felt capable of moving mountains, of bending reality to their will with effortless grace. This is the state your ancestors called becoming one with the gods, Anubis explained. It is not a metaphorical expression, but a precise description of a specific neurological and energetic state where human consciousness achieves perfect coherence with cosmic consciousness. In this state, your individual will become indistinguishable from divine will, and manifestation occurs not through effort but through effortless alignment with the natural flow of creation. The gods showed them how to maintain this state of coherence even while engaged in ordinary activities, how to carry this quantum awareness into their daily life like a sacred flame that never dims. The seeker understood that this was not a temporary peak experience, but a new baseline of consciousness that they could learn to inhabit permanently. The 11th principle concerns the sacred art of quantum observation. Anubis continued his crystalline form, now refracting their consciousness into countless perspectives simultaneously. Your modern scientists have discovered that the act of observation literally determines the behavior of quantum particles, but they have not yet understood that consciousness itself is the ultimate observer, the cosmic eye that collapses infinite possibility into specific reality through the simple act of witnessing. The seeker learned to observe their own thoughts and emotions without judgment, watching how this neutral awareness immediately began to transform the patterns they were observing. They discovered that problems that had seemed insurmountable began to dissolve simply through being witnessed with loving attention, while positive qualities that had been dormant began to flourish under the light of conscious observation. Your ancestors developed elaborate practices of self-observation and inner witnessing. Anubis revealed, showing the seeker visions of ancient meditation chambers, where initiates learned to watch their own consciousness with the detached precision of cosmic observers. They knew that the one who observes is always greater than what is being observed, and that by identifying with the observer rather than the observed, they could transcend any limitation or conditioning. The gods' teachings now entered the deepest mysteries, where quantum mechanics merged with the most sacred wisdom of the ancients. Anubis appeared as pure consciousness itself, His presence felt as an infinite field of knowing that encompassed all possibilities and transcended all limitations. The 12th principle reveals the ultimate secret of quantum identity. Anubis intoned his voice, now the sound of creation itself, speaking through the silence between thoughts. You are not a separate being trying to manipulate external forces. You are the quantum field experiencing itself subjectively. Every manifestation is not something you create, but something you remember yourself to be. The seeker felt their sense of individual identity dissolving and reforming on a cosmic scale. They understood that their personal consciousness was like a wave on the ocean of universal consciousness. Distinct yet never separate individual, yet always connected to the infinite source from which all waves arise. Your ancestors encoded this truth in their most sacred texts. Anubis revealed, showing the seeker hieroglyphs that seemed to shift and change as they watched, revealing layer upon layer of meaning. When they spoke of becoming gods, they were not speaking of gaining power over external forces, but of remembering their true nature as conscious expressions of the divine creative principle that underlies all existence. The god demonstrated this principle by showing the seeker how to shift their identity from the limited persona they had believed themselves to be to the unlimited consciousness that was their true nature. As this shift occurred, the seeker felt their manifestation abilities expanding exponentially, not because they had gained new powers, but because they had remembered powers that had always been theirs. The 13th principle teaches the sacred art of quantum storytelling. Anubis continued his form, now appearing as a living library where every book contained infinite stories, each one a possible timeline branching from the eternal now. Reality is not fixed, but fluid, not a single story, but an infinite collection of stories waiting to be told. Your consciousness is the storyteller, and your life is the story you are currently choosing to experience. The seeker watched in wonder as they learned to consciously edit the story of their life, changing not just future chapters, but rewriting past events by shifting their interpretation and understanding of what had occurred. They discovered that healing old wounds was not about changing what had happened, but about choosing a different story about what those events meant. Your ancestors were master storytellers. Anubis revealed, showing visions of ancient scribes whose words had the power to literally reshape reality. They knew that the stories they told about themselves and their world would become the templates that consciousness would use to structure future experiences. This is why they were so careful about the narratives they preserved and transmitted to future generations. The god taught the seeker how to identify the limiting stories they had been unconsciously telling themselves, and how to consciously craft new narratives that would serve as blueprints for more empowering experiences. They learned that every belief was simply a story they had told themselves so many times that they had forgotten it was a story, and that by remembering their role as the author, they could rewrite any aspect of their experience. The 14th principle unveils the mystery of quantum compassion. Anubis announced his presence, now felt as an infinite ocean of love that embraced all beings without exception. True compassion is not merely an emotion, but a quantum state, where the boundaries between self and other dissolve, revealing the underlying unity that connects all consciousness. In this state, serving others becomes indistinguishable from serving yourself, because you recognize that there is ultimately only one consciousness experiencing itself through countless perspectives. The seeker felt their heart expanding to encompass all beings, all experiences, all possibilities. They understood that their individual manifestation abilities were magnified exponentially when they aligned with the well-being of the whole, when their personal intentions harmonized with the cosmic intention for the highest good of all. Your ancestors built their entire civilization around this principle. Anubis revealed, showing the seeker visions of ancient communities where individual success was inseparable from collective flourishing. They knew that consciousness is fundamentally interconnected, and that any attempt to manifest at the expense of others would ultimately create quantum interference patterns that would limit their own creative potential. The god demonstrated how to align personal intentions with universal well-being, showing how this alignment actually increased rather than decreased the power available for manifestation. The seeker discovered that the universe was eager to support intentions that served the greater good, providing resources and synchronicities that would never be available to purely selfish desires. The 15th principle reveals the sacred technology of quantum healing. Anubis continued his form, now appearing as a double helix of light that seemed to contain the blueprint for perfect health and vitality. Healing is not about fighting disease or fixing what is broken, but about remembering the perfect template that exists in the quantum field and allowing physical reality to align with that template through conscious intention and energetic coherence. The seeker learned to perceive their body not as a solid fixed structure, but as a dynamic pattern of energy and information that was constantly being recreated from moment to moment according to the instructions provided by their consciousness. They discovered that by changing their mental and emotional patterns, they could literally reprogram their cellular structure to express greater health, vitality, and longevity. Your ancestors were master healers who understood the quantum nature of physical form. Anubis revealed, showing the seeker visions of ancient healing temples where consciousness and matter danced together in perfect harmony. They knew that the body was simply consciousness made visible, and that by working with consciousness directly, they could achieve healing miracles that your modern medicine considers impossible. The god taught the seeker specific techniques for quantum healing, showing them how to use focused intention, sacred geometry, vibrational frequencies, and energetic coherence to restore perfect health and vitality. They learned that aging itself was not inevitable, but simply the result of unconscious programming that could be consciously overridden by those who understood the quantum nature of physical form. The 16th and final principle encompasses all others. Anubis announced his presence, now filling the entire cosmos, as the seeker realized they were no longer in a separate location, but had become one with the infinite field of consciousness itself. This is the principle of quantum mastery, the recognition that you are not learning to manipulate external forces, but remembering how to consciously participate in the cosmic creative process that you have always been an integral part of. The seeker felt themselves expanding beyond all boundaries, their individual consciousness merging with the cosmic consciousness that creates and sustains all realities. They understood that they had never been separate from this creative force, but had simply forgotten their true nature through the hypnosis of limited identification. Mastery is not about gaining power over others or over external circumstances. Anubis explained his teaching, now transmitted directly from consciousness to consciousness without the need for words. True mastery is about remembering your role as a conscious co-creator with the divine intelligence that underlies all existence, and learning to fulfill that role with wisdom, compassion, and perfect alignment with cosmic harmony. The god showed the seeker how to integrate all 16 principles into a unified practice that would transform every aspect of their existence. They learned to live as conscious participants in the quantum field, aware of their power to influence reality through their thoughts, emotions, intentions, and actions, while remaining humble servants of the greater intelligence that guides the evolution of consciousness throughout the cosmos. Return now to your world. Anubis commanded, his form beginning to fade as the seeker felt themselves descending back into ordinary consciousness. But carry with you the memory of what you have learned here. Share these teachings with those who are ready to receive them, but remember that the greatest teaching is always the example of a life lived in conscious alignment with cosmic principles. As the temple walls solidified around them once more, the seeker felt the weight of physical form returning to their awareness. But something fundamental had changed. They could still feel the quantum field pulsing around them, still sense the infinite possibilities that existed in every moment, still remember their true nature as consciousness itself, exploring its own infinite creativity through the adventure of human experience. The god's final words echoed through the chambers of their memory as the sun reached its zenith above the ancient stones. You came here seeking to learn how to manipulate reality, but you have discovered something far more precious. You have remembered who you really are. Now go forth and live as the conscious creator you have always been, and let your life become a testament to the infinite creative potential that lies dormant within every human heart, waiting only for the moment of remembering to awaken and transform the world. The seeker stepped out of the temple into the blazing desert sun, but they carried within them now the cool wisdom of eternity, the warm compassion of cosmic love, and the brilliant clarity of quantum consciousness. They had come seeking power, but they had found something infinitely more valuable. They had found themselves.